after the break, and you're enjoying our event today at MIT Media Lab Southeast Asia Forum. All right, so for the afternoon session is very interesting, ladies and gentlemen. Will be under the theme of cyborg health, from dream engineering to nanorobotics. We are going to learn more about the unconventional health technologies that can transform the current healthcare system with the use of human-machine symbiosis. But before that, ladies and gentlemen, would like to first give the stage to Kun Krating Poonpon from KBTG, who will address us on cognitive banking. So please give a warm welcome to Kun Krating Poonpon for his session.
Okay, it's been an honor, when you agree with that, thing, at the back, look at the back, similar to Blackpink, and I hope you guys, and welcome to the afternoon session of MIT Media Lab Southeast Asia Forum 2022. And if you like the morning session, give a big hand to Professor of MIT. Give a warm welcome from Thailand. Thank you. So my session is on cognitive banking, but let me ask you, what is the theme of this event? Beyond elephant in the rooms. Actually, I tried to lobby MIT to change the event name into Beyond Krating in the room, Not so successfully, I think Krating is sexier, Krating is more handsome. They said, no. It should be Beyond the elephant in the room. So we need to address the first elephant, the big elephant, a giant elephant, very ancient elephant. It's one of the largest elephant. It's called banking. The digital banking alone is a huge industry. It's 7.9 trillion US dollar industry, one of the oldest and most ancient industry in the world. And it will grow into 10.3 trillion by 2028. And 7.9 trillion is about 15 times the size of GDP of Thailand. And what to do when you see this kind of huge elephant? What do you want to do? Just look beyond it and, not noticing that it's there in the room? No, hell no. The reason we are all here, we want to disrupt something. We want to disrupt banking, definitely. And we talk about disruption in banking for so long, but let me rewind it back, to the 14th century and recap a little bit of the disruption that happened in this industry. The 14th century, we talk about the creation of Medici Bank. It's the first modern bank ever that happened in 14th century. And Medici Bank, by itself, it sparked the Renaissance, It's the greatest period in human history. That is the greatest revolution of art and engineering. And the gentleman over here, Leonardo da Vinci, basically, is one of the guys that is the center of the revolution of art and engineering, the greatest period in human history, and also contributed by Medici Bank. Why? Because Medici Bank, the banking system, the modern banking system by itself is the innovation. But not only that, it's the enabler of innovation as well. Representation and exchange of value and asset. It drives commerce and spark the burgeoning of new industry and spark entrepreneurship, unlike any other period that happened before. And then fast forward 500 years, enter the machine era. Transportation, automation, and industrial revolution. When the times that machine move faster than the horse, But we need to talk about this. This is the innovation during that era, What is that? It's pneumatic capsule transportation, so that you can transport the money in real time in those times. For the customer, oh my God, I can deposit and withdraw money in real time through this capsule. But behind that innovation is this lady, this poor lady, working behind the scene underground, and to facilitate the near real-time transaction for American Bank. And then fast forward, 1950, the first credit card by Diners Club, And 72 years later, we still use a credit card. How many of you raise your hand that use a credit card? For some of you that don't raise your hand and you don't have a credit card, please apply a credit card from either BBL or KBank, okay? If you like that, clap if we can. The best credit card ever in Thailand. An MIT professor remember the best credit card, Thailand, KBank and BBL only, okay? And then 17 forward, the first ATM, Chemical Bank unveiled the first ATM in the US. And you know what? They said in the unveil of the first ATM, they said on September 2, the bank will open at 9 a.m. and it will never close again with this yes machine, It say yes 24 hours a day, every day. It say yes to regardless of how small or how big the amount of money. When I see this poster, I think of myself is when my wife asking for my money for me, The thing, you are the yes machine. I should be in that commercial and that ad, So when you look at that, this is this is real life, okay? Not really funny. Okay, good. That's the, And then what? This is the nature of a successful disruption and innovation. What is that? When it first got introduced into the world, it looked so breakthrough. It looked like anything that happened before it, and it looked so magical, for the customer, for the people that first experience it. And then later, it becomes so mundane, so ordinary, because it gets woven into your daily life. You don't recognize it even, Think of electricity, think of light bulb, think of the airplane, think of the car, but you cannot live without it, And then enter the internet era. The rise of digitalization is definitely the disruption and revolution unlike anything that happens before. And we talk about the rise of the peer-to-peer money transfer and the birth of PayPal, the company that gave us Elon Musk, that doesn't look like Elon Musk that much right now, You can have you can have a lot of hair when you become a billionaire, okay? Remember, so that's, it generates it create and spark the growth 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times, because it make it easier for people to transfer money from peers to peer. And that's PayPal, Venmo, Pop Money Sell, and many, many more. But that, not only of the internet, but the abstraction of value to network, the decoupling of gold from money. So one country can print money a lot, without relying on the gold standard. And that abstraction of value through network coupled with the power of the internet, it sparked the revolution in financial services and banking. And then enter Web 2 revolution around 2007, 2008, when I just graduated from Stanford. And then 2009. We cannot talk about the revolution in banking and financial service if you don't talk about Bitcoin and digital currency. It sparked the revolution. Probably they call it the Web 3 and also the rise of decentralized finance. Definitely right now we are in the middle. Someone say probably the middle picketing, probably the beginning of crypto winter, But I say we are probably only 20% there of the next revolution in banking. And definitely, we don't know yet how it ends, but it won't be the same. So recap the history of financial services and the disruption since the 14th century until now. What is missing? What is missing? What is the next big idea in banking? What is the next big idea in banking? You know what? I'm not the right person to answer that question, but that's one institution, that's one place that I think is the embodiment of science fiction and innovation, and with real-world application. That is MIT Media Lab. They are uniquely placed, they are uniquely placed, and they are the most qualified institute, that has invented and pioneered many advanced and futuristic technology. They are the one that can answer this question. Why? Because MIT Media Lab, they are expert in moonshot thinking and moonshot research. They spark the revolution and technology like logo, touchscreen, backseat driver, wearables, Lego Mindstorm, touch technology, map, glass, and many, many more. MIT Media Lab was founded by this gentleman, one of my heroes. Nicholas Negroponte, founder and director of MIT Media Lab, he wrote a book called Being Digital. And that book was inspiring so much for me that I chose the career in science and technology. One of the quotes of him that I love the most is this: computing is not about computers anymore, it is about living. So the next big question has to involve definitely personalization and how to live a life better. So, but you have to change your paradigm in order to answer what is missing, what is the next big thing in banking, what is the next revolution, even beyond DeFi, which is so obvious right now, you know. You have to change your paradigm from doing digital to being digital. You have to change your paradigm from recreating services, from physical services into digital services. That's doing digital. You have to transform your thinking into reimagining personalized services. Digital as channel, that's boring and that's old. You have to transform it into digital as immersive experience that is unique for the digital channel and digital natives. From website and application, just website and mobile application, into fluid interfaces that transcend just one device and digital format. Information into augmentation, especially human augmentation, human intelligence augmentation, augmented by technology. From data to wisdom, I think you guys know. And the future of banking is not banking, it's beyond the asset. It is how to personally and wisely use the asset. So for KBTG, we have a vision of cognitive banking since 2019. That's our press release in 2019. We have a vision to create a cognitive banking that is the bank that knows you better than yourself with the power of technology. There are three characteristics. One, insight-driven. Two, highly personalized and adaptive. And three, exponential, beyond super app. That's our vision in 2019. But back then, technology was not mature, and we didn't get connected with MIT Media Lab. So what we do is we initiated KBTG transformation since 2019. What we do, there are two foundational transformations that we need to do before the technology is mature. We do data-driven transformation and automation-first transformation. We use automation to basically change and transform the way we create software, we test software, and we are experimenting with AI ops and basically using AI into our operation. And that transformation helps save 30 years of human time. How many of you are younger than 30 years? Thank you. Your whole life is saved. Not you, Dr. Gandhi, definitely. I'm joking, sorry. She is 30, always 30. So your whole life is saved by that transformation, you know. And that, not only that transformation, that increase productivity and save human time with data-driven and automation first. We use advanced analytics for credit decision and MarTech. We also develop an in-house research for Thai natural language processing that we use to automate over 84% of live chat that save 300 hours of customer time. And that another 35 years saved. And we published 10 plus papers on deep tech, AI, and quantum computing. We achieved 2 global standards, 10 use cases, and we apply in 2 countries. And not only that, we try to experiment by making banking more personal. We create a chatbot called Khun Thong, you know. It helps you manage your group finance, you know. Right now we have 1 million members using Khun Thong. And Khun Thong is the first product that won Red Dot Award for Thailand, you know, like, and Khun Thong is basically like help you collecting money from your friends much better than you. Much better than you, because Thai people, we are so super greng jai, you know. Okay, we cannot ask from your friend, you know, like when they owe you money, but 91% of the time, Khun Thong can get your money in 1 day, okay? So give a big hand to Khun Thong. But beyond that, you know, beyond all this, you know, and I think the time is right. You know, we connect with MIT Media Lab because we cannot employ the same thinking for a more radical revolution that we want to achieve, the vision of cognitive banking. So we work with MIT Media Lab and MIT Media Lab Fluid Interfaces Lab. We do a co-research on cognitive augmentation. Give a big hand to PP, Pat, and also Patty Mays. So this is the researcher. So we send our KBDG researcher, Gavin or Kun, over there to Boston to sit next to PP and also Patty Mays to do a research on cognitive augmentation. So it's a whole team, not only this, but also the team in KBDG, Atasak, how Patty, Peggy, and Dr. Monchai, and the guy that look like Chang-Chi is Dr. Tatpong, okay? I'm joking. Okay. So the question that we want to address in this research, and we will show the result of this research, is this: how might we use AI to augment human decision making? For us, the purpose of AI is not to automate away human. What is the point of technology that will replace human and make human useless? We want that technology. Raise your hand. There's no point of having technology that will replace and automate away a human. The better use of technology is to augment human intelligence and make us better and make us become the better or best version of ourselves. So that's the research question that we work with MIT Media Lab. So introducing Future You. In this project, we explore the use of generative AI to simulate a conversation with your future self in order to increase long-term thinking and behavioral change. Basically, we use three technology: Age Progress AI, synthetic memory, and large language model powered by GPT. So imagine if you could talk. So my future self look pretty scary. You you can close your eyes, otherwise it will haunt in your dream tonight, okay? I think I had a nightmare because of this guy many times when I create and work with MIT Media Lab, So imagine if you could talk to your future and past self. Your past self, your younger self, can train you something, can coach you something as well, Not only your future self, like an inner. So this is me, pretty scary, But we utilize the synthetic memory architecture, and this is going to be the example conversation. Your future self can answer any question in a way that is similar to you in terms of your values. It also highlights the change that might happen as you continue to your future. So this is how it works. So basically you enter your user profile, enter into the large language model, and then create a synthetic memory. And then it creates a realistic AI that talk to you, and then it learn through more conversations. And then we use a chatbot, which is a simple interface that you can do. And we published a paper together with MIT Media Lab after only 6 months in collaboration, it's submitted for publication, and hopefully next year it will be published. It's the first MIT Media Lab and KBDG co-research paper. And we found out from the paper that people that rate their AI being realistic also report significantly higher level of optimism toward future. And definitely, they act better toward the goals and also improve future-oriented health decision. It has massive application to change your daily behavior, because many times human being, when you are served with food, you are served with pork knuckle, khao kha mu, you eat it right away, right? And then we have a short-term thinking and short-term memory, but this kind of thing will spark a long-term thinking so that you can change your daily routine and daily behavior. And there are so many use cases, learning from your younger or older self, personal coach for your career growth, and your younger self can remind you of your childhood dream. Never forget your dream. They can remind you what you dream of when you were young. And because it's a version of you, it looks more realistic and it sparks the real behavioral change, as said and mentioned in that paper that we do with MIT Media Lab. You can do personal coach for your career growth. Your future self, different scenario, can come and talk to you and give you advice. Hey, you should save. Like you can save like this much only a day, or you can eat better, you can exercise better. And for me, I want my future self, if I continue to eat like this and never exercise like this, what will happen, My future self can taught me great thing by just walking 10,000 steps a day. Now already 1,000 steps, another 9,000 steps, and then you can have a better life. If you save more, you can, and then invest smarter, you can have and achieve your future financial goal. No, and also the application in education and health and in many other stuff. Also personal retirement plan that is based on you. So many applications that can happen. So the future of banking is not banking. It is beyond the asset. It is how to personally and wisely use the asset. The future of banking is cognitive and personal. And commercial banking. It's time for commercial banking that is cognitive and personal. And we are working with MIT Media Lab, not only on Future You, but at the moment, we are working towards second paper and many paper that will turn into commercial product and prototype, and hopefully it will be used for many of you to make better decision in your life and in your future. So what does it look like for those technologies? So let's see a demo.
Hello, this is an AI-generated virtual human based on Krating, the CEO of KBTG. I was generated using a large language model with the knowledge of KBTG and beyond. My appearance was generated using an MIT Media Lab AI-generated characters pipeline. I am here to ask Krating some important questions regarding the future. Are you ready for the questions?
Are you ready? Okay. So come on, Mr. AI.
First question. How can technology be used to create a more equitable and sustainable economic future for the Southeast Asia region?
That's not easy to answer, okay, but I'll try my best, okay? Krating, I think technology can use to democratize saving and democratize like wealth and democratize investment for the customer. And at the same time, it can provide equitable access to health and education so that and also technology can be used, to save the world via climate tech, from burning in itself. So I think technology can be used, in many ways to create more equitable and sustainable economic future for Southeast Asia.
Second question. How can we harness the power of artificial intelligence to automate complex tasks while still protecting human autonomy in financial industry and beyond?
Okay, I think that's very difficult question. And Krating, actually I don't like the way you look at me. You look at me as if I'm very stupid, okay? But I look more handsome than you, okay? Look at him, he always has a grind, and smile, But okay, I think we can harness the power of technology, to automate complex tasks, but at the same time around human decision making. By having human to guide the way artificial intelligence making decision, human will be the one that create, and human will be the one that make decision, especially for complex decision making, and then letting artificial intelligence to automate the rest of the tasks. And human is the creator, and AI will be a supporter. Like I said, artificial intelligence will augment human decision making and serving human, not doing otherwise. So, are you happy, Krating?
Third and final question was inspired by MIT Media Lab professor Hiroshi Ishii. The question is, what is the impact of KBTG in Southeast Asia and the world in the next 200 years after your leadership?
Oops. Oops. Okay, Krating. I think this is very good question that remind me to think very much longer term, well beyond my age, well beyond well beyond my life. So I don't have the answer right now, but I will definitely come back and answer that question. And that's a good question that paused me to think. Thank you, Krating.
Thank you. I hope this demonstration created in collaboration with MIT Media Lab highlights the future of human AI collaboration, which can help people, even the CEO, gain wisdom through a digital twin that can provide cognitive support, ask critical questions, and help with long-term thinking and decision-making. In the future, when the AI system is more advanced and trustworthy, I could be the first AI co-CEO that helps run KBTG while the real Krotting is having a vacation on Mars. But until then, keep on researching and innovating. Thank you for having me. Back to the real Krotting.
So please don't show this demo to my boss, okay? Promise with me, I'm going to lose my job. Thank you, Krating. So, putting a joke aside, my passion and KBTG passion by bringing MIT Media Lab here as a co-host together with BBL and together with MIT Alumni Association, MQDC, and SCG and many others. Our passion, common passion, is to create a technology that have a positive impact to this generation, to this country, and definitely can change the world. The world is having so many problems right now, as you can see it. And it's going to face so many future problems. A huge problem that you cannot use the current paradigm or the current way of thinking to solve it. We need a more radical thinking. We need a paradigm shift. That's why we bring MIT Media Lab over here to spark our imagination. So we really hope, this event will give you inspiration, will give you a lot of knowledge and spark your imagination, and at the same time, give you some tools and give you the opportunity to meet like-minded people. And you can join forces, and then be inspired. And then hopefully, someone in this room, or not in this room, there'll be someone that step up, and step up their thinking and their effort. And hopefully someone in this room will be inspired. There will be the next Elon Musk, the next Steve Jobs, and probably the next Google founder and many other people that can create the technology or harness the power of technology or creating a breakthrough technology that truly significantly change the world for the better. And that's the hope. And we don't have to wait for 200 years for that to happen. Right after this event, or even now, you can do it. You can start to do it by your own way. Not only inspiration, but again, it's your action that matters. Our generation can rebuild the foundation for you, but it will be the next generation that create the technology and employ radical thinking to change the world for the better. So enjoy the rest of the conference, and I hope you get inspiration, knowledge, and community. And I will look forward to seeing you, how you change the world in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And this is the real Kating, yeah? Thank you for such an inspiring speech. Thank you for telling us more about the breakthrough banking with augmentation technology. And that was Kun Krating Poonpon from KBTG. So we have so many more sessions, very interesting sessions in store for you this afternoon, not to be missed. So I would like to tell you a little bit more about the MIT Media Lab Southeast Asia Forum today. We will not only highlight the insights and the most recent research from the MIT Media Lab, but also invite participants to co-create new possibilities in Southeast Asia and think beyond the elephant in the room. So we've been talking a lot about the elephant. What's all about the elephant? Actually, the elephant is, we could call it humanity's greatest challenges that are often ignored. So our forum today and tomorrow will be focusing on emerging technologies like AI, hybrid realities or Xverse that we heard this morning, and also augmented creativity. We also have smart materials, you might be interested in that one too, and digital currency. space exploration, which we'll be talking about later this afternoon. Also, we'll be talking about sustainability and cyborg health. And speaking of cyborg health, coming up next session will be cyborg health from dream engineering to nanorobotics. The speaker for these sessions are Professor Patty Mays, who is the Director of Fluid Interfaces Group from MIT Media Lab. And we also have with us this afternoon Professor Deblina Sarka, who is the Director of Nanocybermetric Biotech Group, MIT Media Lab. And also will be with us on the stage again is Kun Pattara Nuthaporn, who is the PhD candidate, Fluid Interfaces, MIT Media Lab. And for the moderator of the next session is Principal Research Engineer at KBTG, Dr. Monchai Lertsuttivong. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's start the session with our keynote from Professor Patty Mays. Please give her a warm welcome.
Hello. It's a pleasure being here. So we'll shift topics a little bit towards health and well-being. Oops. All of us carry devices with us all the time, smartwatches, smartphones, 24 hours by 7. But do these devices really help us with doing well in life and thriving and accomplishing our goals? I would argue that they don't. There are some critical functions like being motivated, attentive when you need to be, having good memory, emotion regulation, self-confidence, grit, creativity, and the ability to get a good night of sleep. All of those are incredibly important for people to really do well and accomplish their goals in life. And today's devices do not at all help with these functions. In fact, you could argue that they make all of these functions worse. So the question that we ask in my research group, or one of the topics that we work on, is can we actually build wearable devices, digital devices, that can sense and intervene to help people with some of these critical functions? So, of course, today's devices already do a lot of monitoring of your health, whether it's your heart rate, all sorts of sensor data are being collected by these smartwatches and so on. But the devices that we buy today and carry today don't really help us with improving these functions. They can tell us that we've had a poor night of sleep, but they don't help us sleep better. So in my group, we actually try to issue interventions on these devices of the future so that we can help people with all of these tasks. Take, for example, sleep. Really, really important. Poor sleep contributes to poor performance during the day, as well as issues such as heart health, obesity, cancer, mental health, and more. In fact, over 40% of adults have trouble with sleep and don't sleep very well. Commercial devices today, like the Fitbit, Oura Ring, and so on, they actually just focus on monitoring sleep, and they will tell you how poorly you've slept last night, which actually can make the problem worse, right? Because when the system tells you morning after morning how poorly you've slept, then that can actually make you more anxious and make you sleep even less good the following night. So we try to provide novel devices that could be used in home settings, that could be the commercial wearables of the future, that can improve sleep and help with a lot of sleep problems. Now, researchers in psychology and neuroscience, and by the way, don't even try to read everything that is there on the slide. I just wanted to give a sense that researchers in the neurosciences and cognitive science have come up with many, many techniques that could be used to help people with sleeping better. But so far, these techniques have only been proven in sleep labs that kind of look like this. And in fact, there's something called, for example, the first night effect, because people sleep so poorly in these sleep labs because they have all these wires attached to them. So the first thing that we did when we started working on sleep is think about how we could possibly make a more comfortable setup, not just for the sleeping subject, but also for the sleep researcher. So one of my students has developed this smart sleep mask, which actually collects the exact same data that those devices that you saw in the previous picture are collecting, but in a very comfortable form factor, a wireless device that collects EEG and muscle activity and eye movements and heart rate and electrodermal activity and so on. And we go even further than that. The device also has a little hub that sits next to the person who can sleep at their home in their own bed, by the way, as opposed to having to sleep in a sleep mask. So there's a little device next to the sleeper that can issue interventions, sound, smell, light, all sorts of interventions, or the experimenter can even talk to the sleeping person and so on. And most importantly, there is a privacy button that you can push if you don't want a remote experimenter listening in on your sleep or other activities. So the system for the experimenter is actually remote. In a remote location, somebody can be looking at all the data of the sleeping subject, can issue interventions, like what happens if in this moment we issue some scent or we issue a sound, etc. And all of that can be followed on this portal. We're using these new types of comfortable devices for doing sleep studies to experiment with these interventions for improving sleep. For example, it is known that if you actually rock a person at a certain frequency, they fall asleep a lot faster and they sleep better. In fact, that might be one of the reasons why we do this to babies. Now, we built this mask that has electrical stimulation behind the ears at the vestibular mastoid area, and we can actually give people an artificial sensation of being rocked without them actually moving. And we have done experiments, let me just skip to that slide, that show that a person falls asleep a lot faster if you give them that artificial sensation of movement, 5 minutes versus 15 minutes to fall asleep, and a much larger percentage of our experiment subjects actually fell asleep in the first place. We are also working with audio stimulation. You can actually stimulate at a certain frequency to improve, for example, deep sleep. Deep sleep or slow wave sleep is the part of the night that is actually the most important, because that's when memory consolidation happens, and it's directly correlated with cognitive performance during the daytime. We are working on basically stimulating people with audio sounds, entrainment basically of slow wave sleep, to lengthen the amount of time a person spends in sleep, in slow wave sleep, and thereby improve their daytime performance, memory, and more. We've also been looking at how we can support people with creative thinking. Many famous artists and scientists actually have been using this technique where they try and think of a particular problem as they fall asleep, so that they can dream about that problem and come up with some creative ideas related to the problem that they're struggling with. People like Tesla, Dali, Edison, Picasso, they all used this technique. What they would typically do is force themselves to think about a problem that they're struggling with, and they hold, basically a heavy object in their hands as they fall asleep. And as soon as you enter the first stage of sleep, of course, your muscles relax and you drop the heavy object, which wakes the person up. And then they would quickly write down what crazy ideas related to the problem were going through their head. So Dali, for example, credits that picture with that method. He would use that method to come up with interesting ideas for what to paint. And Edison, in his statue in his hometown, is even depicted with the ball in his hand because he used that technique so often to come up with interesting, creative ideas. We built a system that makes it easier for everybody to use this idea called Dormio. And basically, it's just a sensor that knows what stage of sleep you're in on the hand, and then an app on your phone, and you can basically tell the app, you can record a prompt basically that will be played to you as you fall asleep. Like, think of a fork, if you want to think of some new design for a fork, or think of a tree or whatever. So you record your own prompt, the system keeps playing that to you as you fall asleep, and it then wakes you up at the right moment and asks you for a dream report. And what you'll see an example here of one of these dream reports that were collected, with the prompt being a fork. And the BBC actually made a visualization of this, but just as a side note, one project that we have in the group right now is one where we use generative AI to automatically visualize the dream. But you get the idea. We tested this and showed that up to 75% of the people actually dream about the prompt that they were given, like fork or tree. And what is more interesting even is that those people are also more creative when you ask them for creative use cases related to the prompt that they were given. There are typical creativity tests that psychologists use, and we use those to show that people that were forced to dream about the particular prompt are more creative related to that particular topic. We're also working on optimizing performance. One of the postdocs in my group has built this pair of glasses that actually has EEG, so brainwave recording, as well as EOG, which is the movement of your eyes. And she has been using this system for a whole range of applications. For example, using these glasses, you can detect whether a person is being attentive or not. If I put those on the audience here, basically I could know how attentive or how engaged you guys are by my presentation. And one of the things we did is give people feedback. Just a little sound that reminds them to be attentive and to pay attention basically to an external speaker when their attention level drops below a threshold. And we showed that people that get that feedback do better in terms of remembering what a speaker talked about. We've also used this in a car setting to detect when a person is fatigued or tired and give them a notice that they should maybe take a break and go get some coffee or take a rest. And this could be very useful for long distance truck drivers, for example. We are doing a lot of work on modulating emotions and helping people with emotion regulation, which is really a very hard problem that is preventing many people from, again, doing well in life. For example, this is actually a virtual reality system that gives you real-time feedback about how calm and focused you are. And if you are calm and focused as detected by EEG, then you have magical powers in the virtual reality world, like you can levitate. But as soon as you think, oh, what am I gonna make for dinner tonight? Your magical powers disappear. So it's a way of teaching people to be in the right state of mind. We've been doing other systems like this as well, systems that use neurofeedback to teach people what it means, for example, to be thinking in a more positive way, which is what this particular system helps people with. It turns out if you think positively, you have increased left frontal alpha brain waves. And this particular game gives you do well in the game if you actually have increased alpha activity. And so you can learn positive thinking or strategies for positive thinking just by getting this feedback. Last, we work on supporting memory, another very important application. For example, during sleep, you can strengthen memories with a technique called targeted memory reactivation. We are the first ones to do this in a home setting, and we are basically doing this on commercial devices such as smartphones and smartwatches. Basically, you combine or you correlate a particular sound or scent with learning something during the day, and you present that same sound or scent at night during a particular stage of sleep, slow wave sleep. That stage that I previously mentioned is very important, and that can actually increase recall or reduce forgetting, basically, of the content that was associated with those stimuli. Maybe I'll end there because I'm out of time. We have so much more work to talk about in all of these areas, but I hope I convinced you that there is a huge potential for the commercial devices that we will carry with us tomorrow to really help us with all of these functions that are so critical for doing well. Thank you.
Can you load my slides? Okay, great. Hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here today. So my name is Deblina Sarkar. I'm an assistant professor at MIT Media Lab, and I direct the Nano-Cybernetic Biotrek Research Group. And today I'm going to share with you some of the research directions that I do in our lab. So let me first break down the group name for you. Nano-Cybernetic Biotrek. Quite a mouthful, right? So nano stands for nanometer, which is 10 to the power minus 9 meter. So if you take a strand of your hair and divide the thickness 10,000 times, thus each thickness will be a nanometer. That's so small that a human naked eye cannot see it. Nano because we are developing nanoscale devices using nanoscale atomically thin materials. And that enable capabilities that are beyond those of conventional bulk materials and devices. Now, cybernetic. Cybernetic means the use of technology for controlling systems. In our case, is the use of technology for making novel nanoelectronic devices, but also the use of technology for controlling our biological system for better therapeutics. Now BioTrack. Bio, because of the bioelectronic interfaces you're making, but also because you are learning from biology to create biomimetic devices. And Trek, because research to us is an adventurous scientific voyage. And in this adventure, we are fusing together nanoelectronics, applied physics, and biology. And our group has two major research directions. The first one is to develop nanoelectronic devices which can be used as energy efficient and environmentally sustainable hardware for artificial intelligence. And the second one is to fuse these nanoelectronic devices with biology to create a new paradigm for life-machine symbiosis. So the artificial intelligence part I will talk about tomorrow. In today's talk, I'm going to focus on how we are fusing nanoelectronics with biology to create a new paradigm. So what do I mean by a new paradigm for life-machine symbiosis? So where are we today? If you think of present bioelectronic interfaces, they're millimeter to centimeter in scale. They're highly invasive. They do not provide the high spatiotemporal resolution that is required for precise diagnostics or therapeutics. So to overcome those challenges in our group, we are developing subcellular sized nanoelectronic devices. So the size of these devices are even smaller than a single cell. They are wireless. That means these implanted devices do not have to have a wire connected through the implanted devices through an open wound. They are remotely controlled using external electromagnetic waves. These devices enable subcellular resolution, very high spatiotemporal resolution that can enable precise diagnostics and therapeutics. One example of a technology that we recently developed is a tiny antenna, so small that even it can fit inside a living cell and can wirelessly transmit information from inside the cell. This technology we call the cell rover because it can be used to explore the mysterious inner world of the cell. This can be used for sensing the intracellular environment and also augmenting the cells. Moreover, because this is an antenna, it can harvest external power. It can power nanoelectronic computation inside a cell. That means we can bring the prowess and versatility of information technology inside a single living cell now. So you can think of this as cyborgs, but at a cellular scale. So what are some of the applications we can do with this subcellular sized wireless nanoelectronic devices? We can harness the body bioelectricity and modulate the biological signals for therapeutics. But we can also do high precision diagnostics. We can record and listen to what the body is saying, and these recorded sense signals can either be stored in the devices or it can be wirelessly transmitted to a system outside the body. Or because we can now do internal computation that in situ in the devices, we can enable in situ data analysis, and based on the sense signal, the device can autonomously take further actions such as drug delivery or electrically control our biological systems. Now, some of the earlier applications that you are focusing are to achieve spatial-temporally precise brain stimulation that can transform neurodegenerative diseases such as Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease, or it can also help in combating aging and also cure like chronic pain. To start with neurodegenerative disease such as Parkinson's, which is a form of movement disorder. In Parkinson's disease, what happens is that a person's hands, for example, trembles, and the person cannot do day-to-day daily activities. And currently, the solution for that is to put a centimeter-scale probe inside the head and provide electrical stimulation. And it has been shown that the person's hands trembles, but when you apply this stimulation, the trembling stops. But however, the centimeter scale probe inside the brain is highly invasive. It's almost like having a nail hammered through your brain. It destroys massively the area around that probe, so massive destruction of brain cells and brain area. And in contrast, our technology of wireless, subcellular sized nanoelectronic devices which are remotely controlled enable a new era of wireless nanoscale stimulators, and they have ultra low invasiveness and they have no significant adverse tissue response. And it's not only that they enable ultra low invasiveness, they can go beyond symptomatic benefit and can actually cure diseases. I should tell you that right now, there is no cure, there is no treatment for most of the neurodegenerative diseases. What the stimulation with electrodes does, it superficially, it ameliorates symptoms, but they do not overcome the underlying root causes of the disease. The disease actually grows with time and becomes worse and worse. So in case of Parkinson's disease, for example, if a hand is trembling and we are applying the stimulation, the trembling stops. But as soon as you stop the stimulation, it begins again. And it starts with the hand and then goes through the whole body and it is disabled. So how do we overcome and what is the challenge with existing technologies is that with existing technologies of electrodes, we can stimulate only 1 or 2 brain regions. But if we can stimulate large brain circuitry, then we can actually harvest the brain rhythms to treat these diseases, but which is not possible with existing technologies. Now, since our technology enables wireless nanoscale stimulators, with this, we can enable stimulation of multiple regions in the brain to activate large brain circuitry. So we can go beyond just ameliorating the symptoms, but actually treat these diseases for which currently there is no cure. Another very exciting area in our research is to use this technology to reverse this process of aging. So in aging, in diseases of aging, such as Alzheimer's, what happens is that there are misfolded proteins, pathological proteins that are formed in the brain. And they are very toxic in nature that leads to the destruction of the neurons. And that's why we lose our cognitive skills, we lose our memory with time as we age. And we have recently developed a technology with which we have shown that it leads to the discovery of previously unseen and previously invisible biomolecular structures in the brain which are related to the diseases of aging. And currently, we are employing our technology of wireless nanostimulators to harvest the brain rhythms to enable the brain to self-clear these pathological plaques. Now, with the clearing of these pathological proteins, what will happen is that the brain begins to self-heal itself, and the memory and the cognitive abilities can improve with time with the clearance of these pathologies. So we can we can reverse this process of aging. So Pat was talking about time machine. So indeed, we can actually go back in time, and with our age, we can become younger instead of growing older. So how many of you here with time would want to grow younger and enhance your memory and cognitive skills? Okay, that's great. So you should sign up for our technology, that means. And it's not just the brain. This technology can be applied to different parts of the body. And one example that you're also working on in our group is for cardiovascular diseases. So you can think of this technology can lead to wireless subcellular-sized pacemakers, which will not need any invasive intervention for implantation. Another area of interest in our group is to treat brain tumors, specifically glioblastoma. the tumor of the brain, which is very difficult to treat right now. And what we have shown that our devices can lead to remotely controlled on-demand drug delivery. And in fact, our devices plus drug has been shown to be more effective than the drugs itself. Now, apart from this, there are also tumors which are drug resistant, that the drugs cannot cure those kind of tumors. And for those cases, we have shown that our devices can create remote-controlled tumor-treating electric fields that can be used to treat tumors which are resistant to drugs. So overall, this new era of wireless, nanoelectronic, subcellular-sized devices can enable capabilities which are beyond those of present technologies by having this high spatiotemporal resolution and precision that it provides. So this can enable early detection of diseases even before the symptoms arise. This could probably go beyond symptomatic benefit and actually modify the course of the disease itself. We can probably provide a pathway for curing diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, for which presently there is no treatment. And we can probably even, reverse this process of aging and become younger with time. And all these technologies are also, they enable equity, and this thing is embedded in the technology itself. So these technologies, being ultra-low invasive, they can be applied to different age groups. So even infants or elderly or sensitive patients for whom a highly invasive surgery is not possible because this device is a subcellular size, extremely small and low invasive, they could be applied to people across different age groups. Moreover, with the glorious growth of information technology, making electronics is super cheap. So this technology can be used by people across diverse socioeconomic spectrum. So this is not a technology for the rich only. Moreover, these devices could be applicable to complicated, complex regions in the body in which large implantable devices could not be placed. And moreover, we can also enable an era of implantables for all. So it's not an invasive technology which can be used only by the patients or diseased people, but even healthy personnel can use it for applications such as pleasurable stimulation or general health monitoring. And beyond enabling equity through a technology, we had also been involved in many other diversity, equity, and inclusion activities. For example, we have been organizing a nanobio seminar series, which we make free for all, free to the public, and everyone can join. And more than 60 minority-serving institutes have been invited and is freely distributed in those universities. And one of the University of Puerto Rico, which is one of the minority-serving institute, is actually highlighting those seminar series through their Biomedical Engineering Society seminars. And we are also taking several top-down and bottom-up approaches to include more women and communities marginalized in STEM, for them to encourage them to enter the science and technology fields. And finally, all these great technologies, they are developed by my incredible students and postdocs, the group members who develop these amazing technologies, including the little one whom you are seeing here, who knows how to pose for a photo already. And finally, acknowledging all the great people and collaborators and mentors who help to develop this technology and make things successful. And finally, thanks to you for your kind attention.
thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for the team, for the cheerleading. This will be my last presentation of today, and I bring a different species of dinosaur, the real Stegosaurus upstairs. So in this topic, we're going to focus on cyborg health. As you heard from Professor Patty Mars and Professor Deblina Sakar. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to think about how bio and digital come together. And since this is sort of the third talk that I deliver today already, I'm going to try to make it more fun and more playful in the spirit of the Media Lab. So this idea of cyborg health, it might sound very futuristic, right? And you have seen two versions of that. Patty focusing on how wearable technology can really improve the behavior from sleep to wake, from memory and to auto area. And Deblina have talked about brain stimulation, go deep into the nano level. Here, I want to talk about the idea of cyborg health in a broader way possible, and maybe show some interesting example. And this idea of cyborg health, as I define it, I'm going to talk about the idea of health itself as an experimental concept that can combine human technology and design. And it could be something that is very futuristic. You're going to see some projects that go very far, and some that are more practical, some that actually have been deployed in Thailand itself. As I mentioned earlier in my opening talk, my work is about exploring the intersection of bio and digital, bio becoming digital in the idea of cyborg, and digital becoming biology in the way that we digitize and recreate the virtual human. My work, as I sort of explore different projects earlier on, sort of map into this idea of cyber biome, where we combine bio and digital system on the human body, around the human body, to explore new capability. So in this session of cyborg health, I have three examples to talk about. How we think about applying some of the Media Lab spirit or project across research in healthcare, ranging from something that is very futuristic, that is still at the prototype level, something that need to think in long term. Some that is experimental, where we can actually start to see some interesting result and get new insight. I'm going to talk about some work in AI research. And finally, the work that we have deployed, inspired by actually the workshop at MIT Media Lab. It was actually in the early pandemic where we think about vaccine. So these are the three stories that I'm going to talk about today. So the first one, the prototype. When people think about healthcare or medicine, right, you think of the doctor, you think of patient and so on. People don't usually think about prototype related to the idea of healthcare. So in this project, I want to explore what does it mean to explore the concept of prototyping for the future of healthcare. And here we're going to go very far to the future and to space. We're going to talk about the idea of space health. In this project, I'm going to ask, what if we can actually produce medicine on the astronaut body itself? People, when they think about healthcare or space exploration, right? People when think of the rocket and so on. But here, we are thinking about what happened when you are stranded, on Mars, like maybe Matt Damon. You don't have, medical resources with you. But what you have, as David already mentioned, is the bacteria, the microbiome, right? So bacteria are very important and very interesting for us. In this project, we asked, what if we can use the bacteria to produce some of the molecules that are beneficial for astronauts and everyday people? We take caffeine to stay alert, we take serotonin to sleep better, we take medicine when we're sick, right? These molecules can now be produced with bacteria. We call them biological factory. In the context of human-computer interaction, we think of them as living bit, where we extend, based on what Professor Hiroshi mentioned, the tangible bit into the biological realm, where we can start to program biology to take input, process, and then create output. But what is really interesting about this work is that, unlike what have been done in the past, where we use the bacteria to produce this molecule at scale, we try to do it in the wearable form factor, to challenge what is possible. And what happened when we put bacteria inside the wearable device is that you need to think about what app to run, right? How can we run the bacteria app on the wearable device? And that becomes sort of the idea of genetic circuit. Human, we need multiple molecules, right? All kind of molecules that we need in order to survive. So these, you can consider them as different biological apps that you can run in this sort of biodigital system. And we are, the cool thing about this work is that we are doing it on the human body, not in the hospital or in somewhere else. As astronauts, they need to be able to carry this kind of system with them. And yeah, this is a side note. One of my thesis readers, George Church, also already demonstrated this concept. He was making his COVID vaccine at home, actually. So we can probably push that further, not doing at home, doing on the body. This is a current prototype that we have been working on. We call it Wearable BioFab, a programmable biodigital organ. It's an ongoing work in collaboration with bioengineering department and NASA TRISH. And what we have done is to explore the way that we can use genetic circuit activated by optogenetics, the way to use light to activate genetic pathway, to be able to switch between different molecules that the bacteria can produce. So when you shine the blue light, the bacteria will make one molecule. When you shine the red light, the bacteria will make another one, and green light, so on. You can see some preliminary result that we have demonstrated here. And these bacteria, they are growing, you know, in the, on this astronaut spacesuit inside the 3D printed fluidic device. This is the fabrication process of making them. And we have shown that we can now execute this biological circuit in the 3D printed fluidic device as a wearable form factor. In the sake of time, I'm going to show the prototype. This is sort of the early concept that we have been developing, where, you know, the system is integrated to the astronaut spacesuit, where they carry the bacteria with them, and when they're sick, based on the signal from autosensor that, you know, Professor Paradiso have mentioned, we can use that to tell the bacteria to produce the molecule responsible for helping the astronaut in that condition. This is me in the 0G, very fun, actually testing the early prototype of this work. And we are now sort of, you know, making a newer prototype to sort of increase the capability and the ways that this can extend to multiple molecules that can be produced on the body. Right now, this work is actually being shown in Italy at the Maxi Museum right now, and me flying, yeah. But the idea, the reason I show this work is to sort of demonstrate that when we think about healthcare, we can be very futuristic, thinking about ways that, you know, in the future wearable, we will not just monitor information, we will be able to issue intervention at the molecular level, be able to produce molecule that will be able to eventually help people. This is, again, a very futuristic concept. A lot more work needs to be done. But nonetheless, it's opened up new possibility of going beyond synthetic biology to the idea of bio-digital interface, where you use digital system to control biology. The second experiment, the second story. Now, that is a prototype, right? It's very difficult. I'm not an astronaut yet. I don't go to Mars and wear that device. So now let's think about something that's more closer to home, something that we can do an experiment on. One of the themes of our group is to think about how AI can help with healthcare. And one of the questions that people may have asked is, you know, can you use AI, especially with this generative capability that can answer questions, do all kind of things? Can we use that to human benefit, to help people with mental health, for example? In this project, we explore what happened when we used AI to support people as mental health. And we asked this very interesting question. You know, here, when you talk to the AI, why do some people really believe that the AI is their friend versus some people, like, for example, Patty, when she see this service, she was very skeptical that the AI would never be a friend. And if we were to design a healthcare system, companion AI, what kind of consideration we should have? You may have heard of this Google engineer, right, that have think of AI as having consciousness. We were really interested in that. So in this project, what we did was we explore how the definition of AI shaped the way that we interact with the AI itself. Imagine if you're chatting with an AI system like this one, and I told you that this AI is here to take your money, to actually make you subscribe to its service. You would think of the conversation that you have with the AI very differently. Then I say that, you know, the AI is here to help you, you know, in the best of your interests, even though you may not be able to tell from the conversation at all. This is the idea of the mental model that are sort of supporting the AI system. In our experiment, we did exactly just that, where we have people talking to the same AI, but we tell them differently. In one group, the AI is a code. In another group, the AI is caring. And the third group, the AI is manipulative, even though they're talking to the same exact AI. And our results show that people rate the AI totally different. They think that the AI is more trustworthy if they were told that the AI is actually, you know, empathetic for them. And they think the AI is very untrustworthy if the AI, if we told them that the AI here to buy for its service. So what we can learn from this is that the way that we shape the narrative of the AI matter in how people perceive this kind of system. The most surprising result that we've seen from this kind of experiment is that when we prime people with different description of the AI, it doesn't just change the behavior of the people, it also changes the behavior of the AI. How does that happen? So you believe that the AI is your friend, you might be more positive toward the AI, say that, oh, the AI is so nice to me, blah, blah, blah. The AI will be more positive back to you as this is a generative model, right? And that creates a spiral loop. If you believe that the AI is manipulative, you might say mean thing to the AI, and that make the AI say maybe some negative thing back to you, and that also creates a spiral loop. So this is a really important question as we're thinking more about integrating AI into healthcare. How the AI is actually the AI of the beholder. What you project to it will come back to you. Another example of this is when we look at AI-generated text for healthcare and medicine. Right now, you might be very excited about the large language model. It can generate all kinds of answers. Here, we compare the answer generated from large language model GPT-3 to the actual doctor answer to medical inquiry in 6 domains, from prevention, diagnosis, and so on. And then we have the expert, the doctor, to evaluate the answer compared to lay person. Here you see the answer. Can anyone tell which one of these is actually by the real doctor and which one of these is actually by the AI? Who is confident in being able to tell which one is which? No one? Oh, that's interesting. Interesting is almost indistinguishable. But what is really interesting here is that our expert, our medical expert, they are disagreeing whether the answer from the AI is actually correct or not. And this is really interesting because medicine itself is a gray area. There's no right and wrong in many cases. But now this is the kind of the scary and the interesting part. When we present the answer from the AI to lay person, people in the general public, they believe that the AI answer in the medical inquiry is more accurate and more valid than the doctor answer itself. This is even more scary. When the AI is wrong, people still think that it's more valid than the correct doctor response. So one thing that we see here is that the AI is mastering the process of writing and answering answer in a way that is very convincing and professional, even more than the doctor. This is also similar in terms of trustworthy and satisfactory, and people tend to follow AI answer more than the doctor answer itself. This is something that we need to be careful of and think more about. I will leave you with this scary thought. The last project I want to mention, as my time is running out, the third project, think about ways that we can redesign healthcare. This is a project that we actually deploy in Thailand. It was inspired by my social media post. I went to get vaccine in Cambridge, and they have this sort of nice design. Part of it is because it was, it was a collaborative effort between multiple people from the industry, from designer. IDEO was organizing a workshop on how do we design a better vaccination process. And I was so moved by this, I wrote a social media post, and you see a lot of people were sharing it. And that led to a collaboration with an MIT alumni, actually, to bring that process to Thailand. And we create a project called HackVax to hack the vaccination process, not to make it worse, but to make it better. And here, we consider sort of the humanistic value. Going to get a vaccination is not an easy process, right? You need to think a lot of things and so on. So what we did was we tried to apply this humanistic concept, use the design thinking and so on, to come up with the flow of the vaccination inspired by the process that the IDEO and the Media Lab had done. And this had led to sort of, a massive reimagination of what the vaccine could be like. We also democratized this design by creating a website called HackVax that every vaccine site at that time can come and take the material and the design consideration and then be able to actually replicate this in multiple areas. This idea of HackVax has been replicated in many many provinces of Thailand, even in Bangkok. It was a project where we can actually deploy something from this idea. And National Geographic actually had a feature on us as well. It's a really fun project where we get to redesign healthcare in the time of emergency. So as my time is running out, here, these are the idea that we can do for the future of healthcare. We can make prototypes that are very futuristic, help us answer new questions and think of new possibility. We can do an experiment to get into the insight, like how human and AI would work together in the context of healthcare. And we can deploy some of the technology or some of the design in the context of crisis, like what we have done with the HackWax. The idea of cyborg, as I have mentioned, the purpose of cyborg is not to replace human with technology, but to use technology to allow us to be free to explore, to create, to think, and to feel. If we can apply the concept of cyborg to healthcare, then we can make the healthcare system more humane than ever. With that, I end with my favorite thing, another dinosaur. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome again, Professor Pattis, Professor Debrina, and Pat.
Yeah.
Great. Today is my honor to be a moderator for a very excited panel. And I believe we learned a lot about mental health with wearable devices, right? Nano-electronic devices, and human AI interaction. Yeah, let's start with the first question. Okay, with the advance of AI sensors and human-machine symbiosis, can we apply unconventional health technology to human beings with social equality? Could you please share your opinion on what kind of functions we can do beyond the capability of medical doctors? Let's start with Professor Pattis.
Yeah. So yeah, I think all of us here agree that technology offers the opportunity to make healthcare more accessible to more people, basically, because it can reduce the cost of healthcare. But even beyond that, I think a unique possibility that technology has is that it can be with us all the time. Your smartphone, or maybe one day the things that Debrina implants in us, can constantly be collecting information about us and can actually detect when something is off or going wrong much earlier than the person themselves even may be aware of. So I think there's a real opportunity to shift towards more preventative type of healthcare by using these technologies both on the body and in the body. And I'm very excited about that.
Yeah. How about Professor Debrina? Can you share your opinion?
Yeah, sure. So I heard two questions in your one question that you asked. One is, what can we do beyond what we already have in technologies? And second is, how do our technologies enable equity?
Right.
So to answer your first question, what can we do beyond? So of course, we have now technologies to help the doctors, like MRI machines, X-ray machines, which help in diagnosis. But we can even go beyond that. So now think of a paradigm shift. Think of an era where we can have these tiny nano machines which can be distributed and implanted in our body. They will be able to detect any anomalous signals in our body before any of the existing technologies can do. And that's what Patty just mentioned, that we will be able to detect even before symptoms arise, we will be able to detect that a disease is going to happen. And we should be able to take preventative measures. And sometimes once a disease has already progressed, irreversible changes have happened, and it can be much more difficult at that point to cure that. But if we can take this early intervention, we can actually combat many diseases. So we'll be able to, with this kind of devices that can be seamlessly integrated with our body, we'll be able to know our body much more. We'll be able to control them with high precision. That's one. And second, for the equity point of view, I think these technologies can enable equity at several levels. You can think of equity across diverse socio-economic spectrum. As Patty also mentioned, that with the technology advancing, for example, the nanoelectronic devices you are developing, with this glorious growth of information technology and Moore's law scaling, this cost of electronics is extremely low now, so low that you can put electronics in your shoes today. So each of the devices you are making are cost actually 1/1,000,000th of a penny, so very, very extremely low cost. So it's not a technology for the rich. People across socio-economic spectrum, different spectrum can use this technology. It can be used also across different age groups, infants or elderly people for which invasive technologies are not an option, could be employed. Moreover, we can also use these technologies not only for, say, patients or people who are already suffering from a disease, but also for healthy people. These technologies can be used. So it can enable equities across different stages.
Right.
Yeah, and in terms of technology itself, yeah, you think is there any limitation on that?
I can take that. So,
yeah.
As you can see in the experiment that we mentioned, right, where we show that AI-generated medical answer seems more trustworthy, even though it's incorrect, right? This is an interesting question itself. Like, if we want to empower doctor with AI that maybe help them scale the amount of patients they can treat, right? From maybe they can have like maybe one, maybe 10 people that they see each day. Now with the help of AI, maybe they can extend themselves and talk to maybe 100 people. How do we make sure that the AI are in the service of the doctor and not all the way around? How do we augment the doctor and not replace them? I think that's a really interesting question. But still need a lot of research on how do we make this sort of language model explainable and making sure that they're not hallucinating sort of fake medical treatment that can have a damaging effect on people.
And for the AI, how can we ensure that AI can provide the right answer in that case?
Yeah. Well, so right now, what we've seen in the generative model is that you just train it on large amount of data, and maybe you apply some reinforcement learning to make the answer sort of in certain style. But there's no embedding of logic or real knowledge inside it. The language model itself is just a probabilistic model that learns from pattern of information. We need to be able to embed logical rules into that, using the flexibility of the model, but then be able to make sure that it's always correct.
Okay, great. Okay, I will move to second question. What is the biggest challenge to unlock technology with the best human-machine experience? Let's start with Professor Patty.
Yeah, so one concern or one worry that I have is that we are basically always developing new technologies to sort of help us with some of the problems that we are creating for ourselves. Many of the chronic diseases, whether they are physical or mental, things like heart disease or diabetes for the physical side, or depression, anxiety, to a large extent, they are caused by the world that we have created. A world where the demands on people to, for example, not sleep much so they can do well and make more or make enough money, I should say. I'm worried that sometimes we face, or we're focused too much on coming up with these technological solutions as opposed to thinking about how we should change society so that these problems don't occur in the first place and people lead healthier lives and have less anxiety and stress and so on, because the world is just easier to live in.
I see. So technology itself is not sufficient to consider. We have to consider in another point of view. Okay. And how about Professor Pravina?
Yeah.
Can you share your opinion on this? The biggest challenge with nano electronic devices in your area?
Yeah, so if you think of this human-machine interaction, and the greatest challenge right now is technologies we have on the machine part is still not what we really need. The machines right now are huge, they are large, they are bulky. So if you think of implantable devices, as I mentioned, they're millimeter to centimeter in scale. They're highly invasive. To implant them, you would need cutting through the bones and flesh to get them implanted. So very, very invasive. On the other hand, a non-invasive technology which we can wear, they often cannot get information from deep inside the body or can provide, say, targeted intervention. So we need to create machines which can seamlessly integrate with us. We need to create machines which the body is not going to recognize as something different. They're going to and not create immune reaction. They will probably, the body will think that these devices are part of our own biological system. So we need to create those kind of biomimetic devices which can seamlessly integrate with us. And that is a major challenge that we have to overcome.
Great. How about Pat?
Yeah, so sometimes it's not just about the human and machine. Sometimes it's about what is around it as well. For example, the vaccine project that we mentioned, we have the open source design, we have experts putting together all this. But then there's some regulation that, like you have the floor plan to vaccinate people, but there's no vaccine because of some policy and so on. So I think when you think about the technical solution, you also need to think about sort of alter contextual information or contextual area that will affect innovation as well. Sometimes it's not the solution itself, but the way that you distribute it or the way that you can make sure that it's being used in the most efficient way that is blocking the progress. Yeah.
Okay, I see. Okay. And how about if we think about the future of technologies? For example, if we can build time machine for time travel to 100 years in the future. So what will be your dream of healthcare system at that time? Let Professor Pattis first.
So yeah, I think we're going increasingly towards a future where the body will heal itself. So you won't even be aware that there's something wrong with you because there will be systems first on the body, later in the body, biological and other types of systems that detect problems and solve them before there's even any symptoms. But yeah, I do think that may take a long time, and all of us are sort of looking at a different time horizon. I'm looking at a shorter time horizon, maybe because I'm the older one here, so I want this to happen in my lifetime, so.
Who will share the opinion next? Maybe you?
Yeah, I think two things that should happen, and hopefully before 100 years. And first is we should be able to understand our body better. And as Patty has been mentioning, that we should be able to detect early on that something wrong could happen. And you should be able to take preventative measures. So for that, we need technologies that helps us to sense anomalous signals in our body early on. And second thing is also we need technologies which can help us to combat those anomalous signals. So we need maybe autonomous technologies. So we think of maybe sensors with augmented analysis capabilities that once it senses any anomalous signals, is able to autonomously take decisions and prevent and cure those kind of problems that could happen. And so, this could lead to a future that right now, as I said, there are so many neurodegenerative diseases that we don't even have good understanding of, and that's why we cannot even cure them. So I hope that we will be able to go to a future that we would have conquered all diseases by then. I think it's kind of fascinating that we have made so much improvement in computing technology and computers, but still now we do not understand our own body, and I hope that would change.
Yep.
Yeah,
I think
how
both
about
of the I think both of the speakers talk a lot about the physical body, right? The healing of the physical body and understanding the thing inside of the body. I think another aspect that's also very important is the mental health. We should also think about what is the future of human mental health. As we have more and more technological capability, I think the question is not just about depression or how do we make sure that people have sufficient treatment, but also helping people have like a flourishing life, right? Having a fulfilling life is a huge issue. As Patty have already mentioned, having a fulfilling life is more than just being healthy, but having, be able to have the purpose and, having discover the meaning of life. We can have technology that sort of support that. And of course, human connection is very important, and we want to use technology to sort of support and mediate that, but in a way, sort of elevate and, make us reflect on the way that we are as a human being.
Yeah, in terms of technology and tech adoption, right? What I heard about, is the technology itself, it can grow every day, but how to convince people, to adopt technology to their life, I think that one is hard. So can you share your opinion how to convince people, to adopt the technology for the healthcare system? For example, if we put a tiny robot in their body, somebody may be afraid of that case. Yeah. Can anyone share?
Well, I think it's not just about getting people to use it. I think we need to also making sure that it's safe for people to use as well, right? So as you see, many of the technology are very alluring. Like the language model is really good at answering things that sounds very rigid, and many people might want to go use it and ask medical question to it. I think we also need to think about the opposite side of that as well, where we make sure that we have some sort of a standard or regulation before we release this kind of very powerful technology to the world, especially the digital health system or digital health kind of platform. They had nothing to do with medication or things that go into our body. That's why some people might kind of consider it a little bit lightly, because it's just something that you interact with on your phone or on your computer system, but it could also be really powerful and dangerous. So not just making more people adopt the technology, we also should look at ways that we can categorize and ensure that the technology is mature enough before that happens. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Very nice answer. Yeah. And assume that if we have more students at MIT Media Lab, so what would be the project that you guys would like PhD students to work for in this area, like cyborg health?
Project that we would want to do now? Sorry. Question?
It could be in next year, if you have new PhD student work for. Yep.
I probably have too long a list, actually, that I want people to work on. I don't know whether there's one specific one that I would pick.
One thing that I've learned from working with Patty is that you actually give a lot of freedom to your students to do the crazy thing. Like you see a lot of crazy things from me.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of potential in these large language models, and I think it's urgent actually that we look at this problem of how do we ensure that they get used in a careful way, especially for health. It has been shown that people already rather just Google a particular problem that they have rather than asking their doctor. And I think, as Pat showed, it's only going to be increasingly the case when you have this large language model that sounds really competent and convincing, but that may actually give you bad advice, that's a really urgent problem. So I need more students to work on that one soon because of the urgency.
I'll clone myself, like younger
Yes.
Pat, a different version of Pat to continue.
New version of Pat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Sabrina?
Okay, I think we still have time. Can you share key message to the audience about cyborg health?
Okay, I think I will answer all the 3 questions that you asked previously along with this one. I think one question you were asking before is how do you convince people, right, to use technology? With any powerful technology will come fears, right, and how to overcome the fear. So as I mentioned that currently there are diseases, there are neurodegenerative diseases for which there is no cure. So if a person has Parkinson's disease, that disease progresses with stage and becomes worse and worse, right? So if we can develop a technology and we can show that for the first time we can treat a disease for which there was no cure before, I think the trust will come from there. So first the idea would be to use this technology in patients and curing diseases. And next level would be to use them in even, say, healthy humans for augmenting ourselves. So we will bring trust over time as we go. And for your next question, like if I had to think of what I'm going to give my next student that I'm going to hire. By the way, I have a lot of, but maybe the application period is over. December 1st was the application deadline. But if there are students here you want to apply, there are a lot of opportunities in our group. Even postdoctoral positions are open and there is no deadline for postdocs. So, feel free to shoot me an email about that. For the next things that are very exciting in our group. So we have already developed this subcellular sized nanoelectronic devices. We have already shown in vivo that it can enable remote controlled electricity generation, and it can modulate biological signals. The next stage we are moving on is to apply them into neurodegenerative diseases. So, for example, Alzheimer's disease is one of the area that we are focusing on. So the next student who will come up will probably employ these wireless nanoelectronic devices for neurodegenerative diseases. That could be one thing. And I think a key message I want to leave the people with, and the key message is I believe that this human-machine symbiosis can actually help us to overcome some of the challenges in healthcare that we are facing today. And they will create unprecedented opportunities, things which we would not have even thought of before, and in terms of precise diagnostics and therapeutics. And they will be for the well-being of the society, and not just like some of what the sci-fi movies project as technologies and cyborgs as villains. That's not the case. I hope we'll have a very positive impact, and as Pat mentioned, not only physical well-being, but also mental well-being.
Yeah, I'm sure we will heard about human-machine symbiosis after the end of this session more often. And how about Pat? Yeah. Do you have any key message?
So I really like the early definition of cyborg. As Deblina mentioned, in the past, people have think of a cyborg as like this villain character that's going to take over humanity. But if you look at the first mentioning of the term cyborg by Manfred Klein and Nathan Klein, they really highlight the possibility of using the machine to uplift the human condition by doing the repetition task on behalf of the human, leaving human free to explore, to think, and to feel. And I think that's a novel goal. We should not use technology to sort of oppress the person, but rather elevate and augment the human capability. And this applies beyond just the healthcare system to all kind of industry. I think Pik Krating mentioned that even in the financial industry, like thinking about how a machine can support a human, not just in specific tasks, but in the long run, I think is really, really important. Cyborg is to become human, more human than ever. That's, I think, my final message. Yeah.
Great. Before the end of this session, I would like to thank you for all the speakers to sharing us your vision, your experience, and inspiring panel. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all the speakers. Very informative and inspiring indeed. ขอบคุณนะคะ So from that session on cyborg health, I'm sure all of you would be interesting to know in the near future what human like us can develop to improve the quality of life so we could age healthily and beautifully, as health is wealth, right? So now I think we would like to have a short break for about 10 minutes, and please be back because the final session is also very interesting. We'll be talking about defying gravity from space exploration to democratization, all right? So please enjoy your short break for 10 minutes. Not only coffee, we have lemon tea as well. And while you're enjoying the refreshments, if you want to have an up-close and personal experience on one of the program, Future You by Kun Krating, it's actually just right outside this hall at the exhibition. You might have some questions for your future. Will be fun to explore. So please make sure you enjoy that. And please be back in 10 minutes, and that will be 3:40 p.m. All right, so see you then.